Hi, and welcome to the Planet Driven Brands podcast. In this show, we will be discussing with our guests how brands they represent can help in the drive to build a better, more sustainable and safer planet. We will highlight brands as drivers for change and the role they play as influencers. How will brands positively impact the planet and its environment? This is what we're going to find out. Do brands actually have any responsibility to change? Planet Driven Brands podcast, episode 19. Today we are talking to Goodwin, freelance design director and the founder and creative director of the Kitchin.app. We're going to be talking about food waste. Glenn, thank you so much for coming on to our show. I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about yourself.
That's all right, Nick. Good to be here. Well, a bit about myself. Career-wise, I'm a freelance creative director, design director. I've worked in the industry for over 20 years, starting off in advertising in London, and then got a job in a contract in New Zealand. So I went to work in New Zealand for 5 or 6 years. And during that time, I kind of moved over into design because I liked the kind of crafting of ideas, not only creating ideas for brands, but crafting them as well.
That's really nice. I guess you're really in and have been involved with brands for a long time. So you will have an opinion on where brands have come from and where they've got to when it comes to the sustainability and the environmental impacts of their businesses.
Yeah, I think over the years, I've worked for some fairly large kind of multinational FMCG brands. And I think basically what's happened over the last 5 years is that the sustainability part of the business has been kind of put further up the agenda, almost so that it's come to the top of their agenda as far as how projects are created and produced. I think the awareness of sustainability within the larger brands out there is something that needs to be done.
And do you feel it's being led well by the leaders in the businesses?
I think they're starting to. I think there is almost a sense of token effort of putting out a message of sustainability within certain brands that they have. The bigger companies tend to put a nice message out onto the media saying we're doing this, we're doing that. I don't know how much impact they're measuring. I think it's difficult for them in some cases because they're producing huge amounts of volume of products, and to change something drastically is a big expense and can take a while to actually achieve.
And on the consumer side of it, the consumers almost expect it from their brands. They don't care that it's written on their packaging and they get told about it. They just expect you to do it.
Yeah, I think you do now. Yeah, I think the consumers are definitely more engaged in what they're buying, even to an extent where provenance is involved. Where does this pork chop actually come from? Where have thy cereals traveled? How far has my tomatoes traveled? I think a lot more consumers, whether it influences them on buying, I don't know.
Now, I also know you get a lot of inspiration from work that you do with climate activists.
Yeah, it's kind of happened about a year ago. I got an email from a guy called Stuart Scott, and he was saying, I kind of noticed your work, and that I've been a climate activist for a number of years, and I'm looking for people to come and join the crew, as it was. They're actually called Facing Future TV, I think they're called. They have a YouTube channel. So in the past, I've done a bit of video editing as more of a hobby than anything else. So I kind of volunteered myself as, okay, I can do some editings for you. And he does conversations with other scientists and other kind of climate activists, and I basically edit them and put visuals into them and make sense of them, make them smaller and kind of YouTube worthy.
But I guess you listen to them, so the underlying messages must be interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. It's actually kind of strange when you're first editing a conversation that you actually know nothing about, and then towards the end of the conversation you're kind of so involved in it that that it kind of makes you more aware of what's actually going on out there. I think there are some people out there who are kind of putting themselves out as worried about climate change, but there are some people who are actually doing. He actually introduced Greta Thunberg to the COP. I think it was COP 25 or something like that.
Wow.
Persuaded her father to kind of allow her to come along, and I think since then he's just really become highly involved in every aspect of climate change, really.
But one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to you, Glenn, was because I know that you're really, really interested in food waste, and I just like to talk more about that.
Yeah, I think what happened, what clicked, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. I was doing some research, I think, within a supermarket chain, and I did a store visit, and I think I'd seen a video previously to that saying that the amount of food waste that supermarkets are either disclosing or non-disclosing, it was becoming huge. So I did a kind of little recce behind the supermarket and went to the bins that they kind of throw things out in. I remember part of that video, there were people who were kind of waiting at the right time at the moment to kind of go around to the back of the supermarket and see what they could grab and take home with them. And I was just amazed by the quantity of food that was edible that was just thrown out. Not just the food, but the packaging, that like everything that goes with it is wasted. And I think it shocked me to a certain extent that I thought, okay, I'm going to investigate this. I'm a designer, I'm a creative person that kind of helps brands grow, and I wanted for them to be aware that what they're doing needs to be within their agenda. How do we get brands to become more conscious of what they're doing?
The numbers are enormous, aren't they, in terms of the amount of food we waste and the percentage of food we waste?
Yeah, I think it was said, I think I researched the other day, that was 88 million tons of food are wasted across Europe. And that's a cost of like 140 billion euros. And a lot of that can be avoided. And I think once I started investigating food waste, I kind of went back from, okay, what are we wasting as in household people, to where was what's happening along the food chain. And that was something I didn't get involved in with, when you're designing packaging, you're kind of at the final end where you're going, okay, we need to create a brand and it needs to go on shelf, and going back towards how those products are being delivered, how they're being stored, how they're being displayed. I think that was something I really got involved in.
But I happen to know that you've actually set about doing something about this, and you've developed an app.
I have, yes. It's been 2 years in the making, 2.5 years in the making. The name is Kitchin.app. It's actually available on iOS and Android at the moment. We did a little soft launch at the beginning of this year, just to test with consumers, to see what they like, what they don't like. But actually, the idea started 2.5 years ago. I was around a friend's place, a Brazilian friend, and we're in his kitchen, and we opened the fridge door and kind of, okay, let's see what we can cook with what's in the fridge. And he basically pulled out a few things. He said, well, I'll put this with this, and then I'll put this with this, and I'll fry this, and he came up with an amazing meal. And I think that's kind of a Brazilian habit. They don't waste food too much because they value it. During that process, I kind of said, well, this would be great to have something that could help you with these. Like, I've got all these things in the fridge. What can I do with them? What sort of recipes can I cook with them? So it kind of spurred from there. And obviously, as you develop, it's not just about what you have in the fridge. It's about what you have in the rest of the kitchen as well. So the idea with this app is that basically, what you download the app, you enter what you have in your kitchen, and it recommends recipes based on what you have. It has a shopping list as well. So when you have finished with that item, you can add it to your shopping list, and you can share it with your household, and they can go and buy. And when they're at the shop, they go, oh, have I got some tuna at home? I'm not quite sure. Oh, yes, I have. Yes, because I've already put it into my app. So it's the base idea here is to help prevent food waste. Food waste is a big problem, but a lot of people are tackling it from a kind of after effect side of things. So, okay, when it's ready to go, where do I put it? What I want to try and do is prevent it, so that if you help people manage their kitchen better, and then you help them buy better and buy what they want and only what they need, and you can tell them when their tomatoes are ready to eat and suggest a recipe based on those.
I'm always absolutely gutted when I have to throw something away.
The one thing we're doing with Kitchen, I think that kind of sets us apart from other kind of inventory apps, is that we're kind of creating a live app, where users themselves can record recipes, their favorite recipes, their grandma's shepherd's pie or something. They can create it, they can publish it, you can have a little profile and share it with your friends. So that's what we want to try and do, is kind of user generated content. I think there are a lot of recipe apps out there. There are a lot of people who refer to certain recipe content, but what we wanted to do is have this kind of dynamic ecosystem of kitchen things. So tips on how do you cut an onion properly. Here you go, here's a little video about it. How do you store avocados so they don't go overripe so quickly? So things like that. We just want to almost create a community where people can put in things that are interesting and it relates. I think one thing I was on the journey that we went through, it was like, okay, you can have an inventory kind of app that helps you with your shopping list and things, but if it doesn't relate to the recipes you're cooking and how you're using those ingredients, then you're using two separate things. So we want to bring it all together. So it's been an interesting journey, and I think the baseline idea of preventing food waste should be the success story of what we can achieve. Technology, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, to be able to create something like this probably wasn't quite there. Whereas nowadays the technology has caught up, and I think we're at a moment where people are using apps for pretty much everything. And if we could measure the amount of food waste we've prevented, for me, that would be amazing. If we could measure in some form or other, whether it's intelligent rubbish bins or something that kind of, like, I think there's something out there that I'm sure will come along where you could put your rubbish in your food waste into your composting bag, and it will say, okay, you've done really well this month.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. It was great to meet you. Thank you so much for your time and for your information. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
No problem.
It's really nice to have met you.
And you. All right, Nick. Take care.
Excellent. All the best.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And you. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. The Planet Driven Brands podcast is the brainchild and copyright of Nick Jones and is broadcast in partnership with theplanetsagency.com. Planets Agency is a partnership of consultants and communications experts. We build planet-driven brands. During the series of shows, we'll be hearing from more experts, and we would love for you to be involved. Please do comment or come back to us with questions. We'll be happy to engage. If you wish to be notified when our episodes are broadcast, please subscribe on the website. If you'd like to be part of the show, we'd love to hear from you. We look forward to many more entertaining episodes. Thanks again for listening.